I'm pleased to be joined by Jamal Green. We'll give him a few minutes to finish setting up, but while he sets up, I want to. If you've listened to my show in a length of time, you've heard me talk about him. He is a. I don't want to limit him and say he's a protester. Right? He's much more than a protester, but most of us came to know Jamal through his protest on the front lines of Chicago, protesting Rahm Emanuel, protesting the violence in Chicago, protesting the different things that are happening in his community. And one of the things I like most about him is that while he has a national profile, he focuses in on Chicago, and he puts his heart and his energy there in Chicago. And he's not a protester, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but he's not one of the protesters that show up in this city, the next city, every city. He focuses in on his city, Chi-Town. And so we're joined by him today. I think hopefully I've given him enough time. Well, actually, we'll give him a couple more seconds. Let's see. How you looking, Jamal? Let's see. Let me get your audio on. How's it going? Thanks so much for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
My pleasure. My pleasure. We've been trying to get you for a while, and I know you've been busy all around the country. There in Chicago, I saw you on the Steve Harvey show discussing Black Lives Matter and police violence and violence against police officers. I've heard you on radio. I mean, you've really been doing your thing. Can you tell my audience a little bit about yourself and what you're working on in the movement?
I've been in the community in Chicago since I was a young boy. I started my own youth organization when I was 15 years old, in which I had contracts in different states, going into the school systems, talking about anti-bullying, anti-violence, and inspire them to achieve their goals. From then, here in Chicago, with Ken Bennett, who stands to Rapid Staff, who is a family that, they're like my family. He connected me to partner my company with the city to do some of the same things, like putting the gun, I was a put the guns down ambassador for the city to go into the schools to talk about reducing violence. From then on, I've always been in the community organizing, and then a Laquan McDonald video released in which Jason Van Dyke shot him 16 times, and they covered up the video. And I became Rahm Emanuel's and Anita Alvarez harshest critic. So from then on, the rest is kind of history.
I
was pushed into the spotlight after that.
Yeah, because that's really when I first heard about you was around the Laquan McDonald mass. I mean, it was horrible to watch that, and the fact that Rahm Emanuel saw it, helped suppress it until after the election was such a gut check for anyone who ever had any sense of identity with him or identification with him, because he was a Democrat. Here's a Democrat who is actively harming the Black community there in Chicago, and you came out into the forefront, and you've said a lot, man. I love your comparison. If he was the CEO of the city and you all were the stockholders, you would have his head, his corporate head on a platter.
We already know, Ben, that he closed down 50 schools. He shut down all the mental health facilities. He neglected the urban communities his first 4 years. The only reason why he got in the second time is because he was running against a Hispanic candidate. And, in Chicago, the voters are a little bit, I won't say racist, but you got to kind of be white or Black to really, get them to vote for you, because they feel like if you're any other nationality, that you're just going to care about your race and you won't care about everybody else. It's a crazy thinking of the voters here in Chicago, but he barely won even then. That's how he got in. But we knew how bad he was as a mayor then, and he should have never got back in as mayor, but he won't ever again.
Now, do you feel like a lot of people, that if that video had come out before the election, that he would not have gotten reelected?
I think that if the video, the thing about the video is that Rahm Emanuel had a chance to be a hero. And if he would have saw this case and when it happened and stepped up, released the video and said, look, I'm not going to stand for this. I'm going to change the police culture. I'm going to invest into urban communities. If he would have took a different approach than what he did, he could have been looked at as a hero, and that would have got him reelected.
Right.
That would have helped get reelected, and would have been so much, hate that it is now against him. But instead, he covered it up, slid it under the rug, so that he can slide into his seat and not, care about what Black people are saying towards him. But if it was released before and he didn't do anything about it or take that approach, he definitely wouldn't have got elected. And I think right now he's in a position where anybody can beat him, even a 12-year-old.
Yeah. From your lips to God's ears, man. So now here we are. Well, actually, I want to talk to you about Donald Trump's master plan for Chicago in a moment. But before we segue over into that, you are actually very active above and beyond police brutality, above and beyond Rahm Emanuel. You're active addressing the issue of Black on Black violence right there in Chicago. And the only reason, and I bring this up because one of the straw men that is always thrown and the ways of deflecting is saying, oh, well, what about Black on Black crime? But you're there addressing that on top of everything else. Tell us about what you're doing in that area.
So, there's a lot of different community organizers that do, address crime in our communities, but it just don't get the media coverage. So a lot of people don't know about it. But there are a lot of organizations, there are a lot of people like myself who are on the ground organizing to try to bring people together in their respective communities. And I want that to be said because a lot of people don't show it. When it's a police officer, it's a bigger story. And that's why, people would think we don't address that. So in Chicago, right now, I'm opening up a youth center. I'm opening up a community center that is dedicated to entrepreneurship with real estate workshops, credit development. I'm partnering with a bank to teach kids how to budget their money. You're talking about creative writing. I'm going to have a dance studio with martial arts and boxing. Also a music studio for kids with a 3.0 GPA higher. And so it's also going to be a resource center as well for jobs. And so we're going to be a satellite location for one of our partner companies to do hiring events and teach them how to, do their resume, teach them how to interview. So it's going to be an amazing, unique community center that isn't seen probably anywhere.
Yeah, so when you hear people say, why don't you focus on Black crime? What do you? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Because I know what comes to my mind. What do you think when people throw that at you?
A lot of things come to mind. I think they're crazy because they don't even understand what's going on in our communities and why, and the root of the problems, and the systematic conditions that's been going on for since the beginning of time, why we're in this position that we're in. And so I think that they neglect, they don't really care about our issues. So people who say that, they don't really care about what's going on, they could care less. They just want you to shut up and go back to handling your business and your community and don't say nothing about what's going on. So they don't really care about what's going on. So
Yeah, absolutely. And you actually led right into this next thing that I want to talk about. You said you have to address the underlying systemic issues. Yes. And you were speaking at a town hall that Bernie Sanders was at with Chris Hayes, and you started speaking to the fact that if you want to address violence, you have to address the economics. Unpack that for me real quick.
So what people don't understand about Black on Black crime, and when I said about the systemic conditions that's been going on, is why there's Black on Black crime. Okay, so firstly, I'll start with the analogy that if you put two lions in a cage and you starve them for a year, you probably will end up with one lion because they'll probably turn on each other and eat each other. And so in our communities, they cage us into these ghettos or these projects or into these communities, starve us of the resources and funding in our communities. The unemployment rate in these areas are very, very ridiculously high. The mental health facilities are shut down. The education is underfunded. The public school education have outdated books, 30, 40 kids a classroom, not many counselors to deal with kids with real issues. So the schools are horrible in these communities. You got kids just walking around with PTSD and they don't even know it, because there's nobody to help them with those mental disorders, because Rahm Emanuel shut down all the mental health facilities.
Yeah.
So when you want to talk about violence, you got to look at what's going on in these communities. We don't have many mentors. We don't have a lot of great parenting. But once they walk out that house and they may not have the best parents, they look at that environment and say, I don't have the best school. The school don't care about me. Nobody's going to help me get a job. There aren't community centers to help guide me anywhere.
Right.
What am I going to do? Well, I got my friend who's going through the same problems that I'm going through. We're going to hang out and try to make some money some way, because we need to eat. There's nobody here to help us eat. Right. So they join a gang because all of their friends become, they become family, because they don't have any family. They don't have any hope that they can be anything bigger than where they are. They don't have any love, because they may not have family that actually care to give them time or guide them, or a teacher like my teacher who opened up my youth organization with me. They don't have a person like that to grab them. So that is what's going on in these communities. The average age for gang members is 16 to 19 years old. A lot of them are 13, under that. Wow. So when you talk about 13 and 19 years old, these are kids that can be grabbed and guided and said, look, this is what you need to do. Here's a job. Here's a community center that you can occupy your time in. Here is a mentor that'll show you the love that you need. This is what we have to do in these communities. It does not start with police, because police are only there to react to problems. They sit down and they want to wait on that call to say, hey, somebody has just robbed a place. Okay, well, let me go. They're not there to prevent criminals. Guns don't prevent. Everybody can have a gun. All right. But it's about who has the gun. How do you prevent that person from shooting somebody like Dylan Roof? Or everybody can have a gun. It's not guns. It's not police. It's the people. And you have to start there and prevent criminals by giving them alternatives.
Man, let me do this. I got to do this because I want you to keep going. I want you to, just because you have a way. Like, let's talk about you as an individual, man. You have a dynamic message. You have a dynamic delivery. I mean, the game recognized game. I see it in you, brother. I've seen it in you since the first clip I saw of you introducing Bernie Sanders. I said, oh, that brother's gonna do something. I want to salute you and just encourage you. I'm pretty sure you have a lot of people encouraging you, man. But from me and everyone who rolls with me, man, we're fans of yours, and I think I probably at least got 15 years, 16 years on you. But I'm a fan of you because you know what you have, a passion, you have the conviction of your passion, and that's what's lacking in some protesters or some leaders of so-called leaders of Black Lives Matter. You actually have taken it on the chin for the movement. Right. I mean, Chicago came after you like a ton of bricks, and as compared, not that we're in a sympathy Olympics or an oppression Olympics, right, but as compared to some of the leaders, that get photo ops, you got hit with a bail that was like that they give to murderers. And here you are really, fighting this fight. So where are you now?
Still fighting that fight.
You're still fighting that fight. Where is that fight at right now?
Well, I can't really talk about it, of course,
right,
because of the gag order, but
you're still fighting it.
It'll be done soon.
All right, we'll leave it there because we're not going to make it worse. We're trying to do whatever we can to make it better. I want to play this clip of you on Chris Hayes last week, or it was about 2 weeks ago now. And this is you basically saying what you just got through saying here, that it is a matter of if you're going to address if you're going to address violence, you have to address the economics. And here you are speaking with Chris Hayes during the town hall. Let's listen in.
intervention. And right now, nobody has really said it, but his name is Rahm Emanuel. And this mayor that we have in the city of Chicago does not care about black people. And I'm gonna put that on the record. When you can invest $100 million into DePaul basketball arena when they can practice at the United Center for free, and $16.4 million into Uptown to build upscale apartments, when you can build these new bus stops we got now downtown, but walk in our neighborhoods and not a million is coming. When we walking past boarded up schools, boarded up houses, they knock it down with red X's with no plan to redevelop, mental health facilities shut down, the unemployment rate is the highest in Chicago than it is around the country. When you want to talk about violence, you got to talk about the economics, not police.
Man, oh man, let me tell you, when you did that right there, I think the nation heard you loudly and clearly, and now I hope now more than ever before that people are calling on you to continue to speak and share this message. I don't know how much time you have here, but this just came down in our news today about what Donald Trump wants to do in Chicago. Do you have an extra few minutes we could discuss that?
Yeah.
Okay, so Donald Trump plans to essentially federalize. Let's do this here real quick. Donald Trump is planning to federalize the National Guard and put them in Chicago to close off easy access to and exits to the most violent neighborhoods. He wants to flood the zones with local police and federal law enforcement officers. He wants to create concrete blocks. He would use concrete blocks. They would be brought in roughly half of the exits of the crime-ridden areas, and the others would be controlled by the National Guard with law enforcement cameras inside of this perimeter. The streets will be saturated with city and state police, the Cook County Sheriff's Office. I mean, he's talking about creating a police state in this area of Chicago where we see heightened violence. This is not a solution. This is almost declaring war on Chicago.
Yeah, and hopefully that does not happen. I do believe he has to go through some channels, but if that did happen, it would be a bad result.
Yeah.
That is basically a Band-Aid, and it won't solve the problem that we have in our communities. You know, what would our communities look like at the end of that? The same, and we'll still have the violence. You know, we have to start talking about economics. You know, I think Donald Trump is ridiculous, and that idea, it's not law enforcement that can change this problem. Right. And so we do not need more oppressive forces to come in into our communities and capture and kill and lock up our people. You know, that is not what needs to happen. I believe that murderers and killers should go to jail, definitely. But we need to start preventing those certain people from getting to that position. And we need to give them jobs. We need to put federal dollars. But if you want to bring in the feds to investigate Rahm Emanuel. See what he did as the mayor and figure out how you can lock him up. You know, send the feds into all this corruption that's been going on in the state, and then send in federal dollars to start rebuilding these communities and creating jobs like you say that you were going to do on the campaign trail. We do not need more police. We do not need a National Guard or more feds. We need money to rebuild. That is what we need in the city of Chicago. So if they go that route, it will end ugly. Yeah. Because black people, they won't happen. Not in this city. This city is a city of fighters.
Yeah. Yeah. Jamal, listen, man, thank you so much, man. I don't want to hold you much longer. Your time is precious. Thank you for sharing what you've shared so far. There's a whole lot that we could probably say on that.
Me, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Listen, tell everyone how they can get up with you and anything else you want to say. Some last words.
Everybody can get up on me on Twitter. It's Jaymal Green with a Y. It's JaymalGreen. For the Activism on Facebook, it's JA''MAL, green as the color. And if you want to be a part of what we're doing in the city, as far as our youth center, or donate your time, you know, you can go to MajestyAllStars.com. That's MajostyAllStars.com. ALLSTEE, Allstars, ALLSTARS.com. info@majestyallstars.com to email us. And yeah, just get involved and do something in your community. Don't just wait for leaders like myself to do something. If you see a problem, to get out there and fix it, you know. And I wasn't a fan of Barack Obama as much as a lot of people know, because I feel like he did the same thing that Rahm is doing, and Rahm is his boy. But I do agree with what he said in his farewell speech. If you see there's a need for change, be that change. Get out there, organize, open up your own organization, or organize kids in your neighborhoods, or, start a block club, do something. Don't just work that 9-to-5 job and come home and think that problems won't hit home, because it can hit your kid. And then you'll be asking everybody for help. So get out there and do something and contribute to what's going on in your city or your community or your country.
Man, Jamal, we got to get you back sometime. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. 857-600-0518 if you want to join the conversation. That's a brother. That brother's going to do something. He's doing something. But you know how old folks say, that brother going to be somebody. He's already somebody, but I believe he's going to do some great things coming in the future. And I'm definitely excited to have a front row seat to just see his growth and see how he can change. I mean, and he's focusing so hard on Chicago, which we don't find that right now. We find activists who are national, which is cool. And we need everybody to do what they do, but to find someone who has sunk their teeth into the local problem and to take it on the chin for his city. It's good to see that. And I know we need to start elevating other people like him that are not famous, that aren't Twitter famous, that don't get the television spots, but they're in their communities, locally grounded, changing the world from right where they are. We need to start elevating those voices more and more. And I know that they're out there.